Yeah, da, 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 yeah, da, da, da. I am Marky Makeup, your cosmetic mechanic. It is Wasteland Wednesday. If you like what you see, or you want to support the show, I'm throwing up the Venmo so you can check it out. If you're watching this on YouTube, you are watching this later on. But welcome as well. So there's the Venmo if you want to support me, the show. Marky Makeup is the Venmo. We'll give you a shout out if you throw down while we're live. I'll give you a shout out. If you slide into my Venmo, I'll let you know. It's looking very Vault Tech here tonight, isn't it? We got some blue and yellow. It's gonna happen. We're gonna be mixing some silicone. Are we gonna mix silicone, Vault Boy? Oh boy, yes we are. Alright, we got some A's and B's. Gonna mix some silicone. We got a little clay sculpture, a little wall. Will the wall hold up? I think so. We're gonna make a mold because we're gonna make a prosthetic out of this little squiggly little guy here. Some of you may have recognized that. There's a tribe symbol out in the waist. It is Badlands Savages. Check it out. We're gonna make some prosthetics. So we are going to pour our silicone. This is a really easy thing, not a thing you see very often done live, but hey, nothing scares me anymore. We're gonna mix equal parts A to equal parts B. We're going to pour it in a cup, make sure the color is even, and then we are going to gently pour it in the mold. Jump on in if you have any questions. Jump on in the comments if you've done something like this yourself. I'm sure this one will have a lot of questions, but we're going to get started. We're going to go full steam ahead so that I make sure I have a finished product for you people to look at. You should use a triple beam balance scale for this. One of those fancy scales with 3 ways of measuring. I think it's usually tens, ones, and then point percentages, right? You twist to the end. A triple beam balance scale. We are not here at Marky Makeup. We're going to use an old-fashioned Dixie cup. We're going to eyeball it about half each Dixie cup, because you can't use a full Dixie cup because you're going to put one Dixie cup into the other. So don't confuse yourself. Don't overdo. Don't overdo. So here we go. A little of this, a little of that. I don't want to say it's foolproof, but it's almost foolproof that you do a little A, a little B. It is bound to cure. Maybe not quite as fast as you think, but it might take overnight. But it will cure, even if your ratios aren't perfect. I will tell you right now, I am working with Mold Star, what I think is 16. Mold Star 16, I'm going to combine these, and we are going to have what is called a 6-minute working time. So I'm going to start stirring. Once it becomes a uniform color, we are then going to pour it into the mold. We will have 6 minutes until this becomes unworkable. So not solid, but not workable to the point that you will be able to collect detail. So it's a 6-minute work time. They make a 3-minute work time if you're crazy good, and then they make a 30-minute work time, which is too long for me. 30 minutes is too long for me. It takes forever. Hope everybody's doing good. I hope everybody stopped by the YouTube channel and saw Gilly's Arcade in Space. Some Neotropolis coverage. Gilly's Arcade, a one-man arcade. I think you're in here, Gilly. Tell us how big it is. I don't know. That's an enormous tent. 40 by something? I don't know. But the tent is huge. It's Gilly's Arcade. some old school games, some practical effects. We had, what else did we have? Some Segas, some Neo Geos, some cabinets. It was a lot of fun if you were there at Neotropolis. Gillies Arcade in Space. You can check out a tour on my YouTube channel, The Cosmetic Mechanic. Like, comment, subscribe, tell a friend. Oops, I missed with that part. Go ahead and check it out over on YouTube. We're going to start mixing. We're going to want a uniform color. We got white and blue here. So we're going to want no streaks, no streaks. You're going to want to scrape the sides. You don't want any swirls. 20 feet by 8 feet, Gilly says, of the arcade. That's a lot of arcade for the middle of nowhere. That is a lot of arcade. So you see we're mixing away here. We're going to want to work fast because we're going to want to start pouring. Pouring the silicone is a bit of an art in and of itself. There are many different philosophies as to how to pour this silicone. A lot of people have all their different point of views on it. But we are today going to pour at the lowest point and let the silicone find its own level. So we're going to aim to pour the silicone again at the lowest point. We're going to make a little spout. We're going to high pour so all these bubbles will break on its way down. This has a lot of what I would call low points. There's a lot of extra space. So we're just going to go high and let the silicone raise itself. There are some theories that you should hit the highest point and let the silicone melt down from there. I mean, that's a philosophy. There's a lot of different ideas about how to pour your silicone, but nothing to it but to do it. You just don't want any air bubbles touching your sculpture. That is the worst. You don't want any air bubbles at all. If you have a 30-minute working time, if you get a 30-minute pot life is what they call it, you can evacuate the bubbles out of the silicone with a fancy machine called an evacuator. It's basically an airtight vacuum. I've worked in shops that have made their own evacuators, and it basically, all the bubbles rise to the top, and then all the silicone falls down like a souffle that breaks. It's kind of a fun thing to watch. But we're pouring high. We're keeping a little, so it looks like a little string, so all the bubbles are breaking here. Takes a little more patience, a little more artistic method to it. But here we are, just watching it pour. We got about 6 minutes. They tried to sell me a 3-minute at the store, and I was like, no way. There is a lot of cross-contamination that can happen here. So you do not want to use a sulfur clay with silicone because sulfur will inhibit the cure of silicone. So that is a major thing you want to look out for. You will want to use a water-based clay or similar type. Oops, that might have created a bubble right there, Marky. Bad Marky. Some people do brush on with an actual brush silicone. That's possible. Looks like we're getting close to our time. Is anybody keeping track? Has it been 6 minutes? We're going to do a couple cups like this. A couple cups. I don't know if we got all this out. We didn't get all of it out, folks. You want to get it all out. We're going to do some chunks around the edge, though, where there's no details. Oh, there we go. Maybe my hand didn't tilt enough. Oop, glomp. Yep, glomp. Glomp. See, it's getting close to being done. So you want this, you can sneak this chunkiness around the edge. But there it is. It's getting close to being finished. We're getting close to our pot lifetime, and there it is, setting up. So you see it set up live. Stuck. It hits the brakes on you. So we're going to go with a second one. I knew it would take about 2 cups, so we're going to go with a second little serving here. See if we're going to go a little bit less this time. A little bit less than half, so we can stir it up a little better. Some of the blue base is kind of left at the bottom of that. You don't want to do that because this silicone is expensive. You want to make sure you get a nice even stir. That time I didn't. But as long as you don't have it's not too streaky, it will set up. I have seen things that are like swirly bird colors and they've still set up. And you come back the next morning and you go, uh-oh. But it will not set up as fast. But I'm pretty sure Smooth-On has a guarantee that if it starts to set up at all, it creates a chemical chain reaction, a domino effect, that the whole thing will cure. So I have no concern that this will not cure. This is curing up pretty good. If you have more of the A than the B, it'll set up faster. That's another way you can keep track of it. If you have more B than A, it sets up slower. But you should stick to the ratio of your bottle, especially if you're new. Stick to the ratio the product uses, usually 1-to-1 if you're using Smooth-On. And don't stray too far from that. You'll get yourself into trouble. You can seal the clay, absolutely. This didn't feel like a lot of A, so I might have a lot of working time with this one. You can crystal clear the clay to set, so you definitely have or less chance of cross-contamination. I did not seal this clay. I don't feel like any of it is going to get stuck into the mold. There's not going to be a lot of undercuts. All this clay should just, it'll just file right out. There's not a lot of like teeth or ear in there. Well, there's no teeth or ears. There's not a lot of like characteristics that would create an undercut. So there we go. We got a nice uniform color, a little bit brighter blue this time. Maybe have a little more working time. And then we're going to high pour. And again, the high pour breaks the bubbles. And we're just going to let it find its level. Again, you can pour into the deepest part of the mold, which for this one, it's the floor. And just let it find its level. That is a good question. This will be a latex scar for one of the tribes out in Wasteland. So that's another good question. In about 30 minutes, this will cure completely. And it'll be ready to take the clay out, and it'll be a mold. Again, not the fastest, not the slowest. Some silicone cures overnight. Some cures even faster than this. Once your clay is covered, you don't have to worry too much, especially if you're not going to cook it. If you're not going to put the mold in the oven, you don't have to worry as much about getting bubbles. The place you don't want bubbles is right against the clay. So we can pour a little more generously. Just like frosting a cake, yeah. I've done brush-up molds with silicone, where you put a brush into the silicone and you pour it in. I mean, I've done huge, like we're using a Dixie cup. I've done silicone with, a popcorn bucket, where you you brush it up with a brush, or you pour it with, like, you just pour the whole popcorn bucket on there. So yeah, I've had a lot of messy silicone experiences in my time. I'm gonna go one more. I'm gonna go one more fast layer. Oh, let's see if we can get the rest of this out of there. Is it been 6 minutes? Who's timing? Who's timing? Was it 6 minutes? I'm gonna watch this back, and then we can give you guys chapters, different chapters of how fast or how slow we did. We're gonna do one more, just a little one. And if you want to be shiesty, if you're bold and excited and experienced, we're gonna do about. I see a little line at the bottom of this Dixie cup. We're gonna do a little bit here. And then, because we're the bold and the beautiful, we're gonna go right. And I don't recommend it. Don't try this at home. The B right into the A. Don't do this at home. Always use 2 separate cups, and never try to pour something out of your cup back into the container. Oh boy, that's an expensive mistake if that sets up on you. If you pour the A into the B of the container, hasta la vista, baby. The whole thing will set up. It'll set a chain reaction. So here we go, one last sloppy coat at the end, just to beef up the back of the mold, because we are looking at the bottom, not the top. The top, in my point of view, is going to be where the clay is now, the table. You do see some bubbles. The only place, like I said, we have to worry about the bubbles is against the sculpture, against the clay. You don't want any bubbles there. And since we've passed those 6-minute time limits, we are pretty far away from any of this sinking onto any of that, if that makes sense. That 6-minute layer is over. So it's pretty firm. So this liquid stuff, even if this was full of bubbles, is not going to sink into the other layers. I think this is pretty good. I think we have a significant amount of silicone on here. Now, if you're a real crazy person, some people like to take it and whack it against the table and try to get all the bubbles out. I'm not a crazy person, so I'm not going to do that. But some things you will see is our wall maintained integrity, so no silicone spilled out, because that would be terrible. And it looks pretty good, looks pretty level. There's a nice shine to it. There's a nice, basically an even cover there for now. I'm sure it'll cure even. Maybe it could have been stirred 1 or 2% better. Oh, I look on my cameras. I have 2 cameras running right now, but neither of them, they all look perfect here. But I see the tiniest gradient in real life, but it's the tiniest gradient, and I will not hold myself to it. I am A-okay with it. We will soon have silicone. Like you see this. Was this our first one or our second one? I think this was the second one. It's getting pretty gooey. And this was the first one, and this first one's almost done. See how it's ready to go? See how it's rubber? And then this one is still gooey, but it's getting there. And then this one is still pliable, but not too pliable. So there you have it, folks. If you have any questions, I'm sure you do. I'm sure you have a ton of questions. There's a lot to cover on this particular subject. I've been making molds for 20 years, maybe. I made molds for, like I said, head and shoulders for people's head to get cut off in movies. I've made tiny molds for things like Robot Chicken. So if you have any questions, I can try to help you out. I'm by no means a know-it-all in this department, because there is a lot to know. But things you'll want to worry about: air bubbles and cross-contamination. You don't want any sulfur or latex involved with this process. So you want to keep that separate, because that will inhibit the cure. It won't cure. If you poured this on a sulfur clay, a green Roma Plastilina oil-based clay with sulfur in it, like it smells, this will not set up. So you do want to be careful, you do want to be clean, you do want to, pardon the term, quarantine your supplies. And I mean, certainly not where these are vinyl gloves, but certainly if you have rubber gloves, latex gloves, they're pretty hard to come by nowadays. So you don't want to do that either. If you use any kind of, I don't know, some people are messy. If you use any kind of tool, I use disposable things. So these were, everything was brand new. So latex paint or latex was never in this. You don't want to do that. That would inhibit your cure. Trying to think of some other things, and again, you can crystal clear, some spray crystal clear your sculpture if you wanted to. This sculpture is pretty basic. I think it's just going to peel away when I pop the mold. I will record popping the mold if you folks want to see the release of the Kraken. I'll record popping the mold, but for now, that is it. Bit of a quick episode. Again, check out Gilly's Arcade. A new video up on Wasteland Wednesday on Marky Makeup's. No, none of that. The video is on YouTube on the Cosmetic Mechanic YouTube page. Like, comment, subscribe, tell a friend. And we will have new videos up next week on YouTube, Cosmetic Mechanic. And I think that's it. I think we're going to get... This is the first Wasteland project I've had. A commission from one of the tribes. So get excited. Get those commissions in to me or anybody else. If you have friends, if you're going to hire them to do stuff, start talking about it now, because the summer evaporates very quickly for us artsy types. We run out of time, and we want your commissions to look great. So be sure to get your commissions in quick. That's a wrap. I'm going to call it a wrap. I am Marky Makeup. This has been another successful Wasteland Wednesday. If you're just tuning in, you're looking at an ashtray. If you're watching this on YouTube, feel free to drop down in the comments. Let me know your questions, and I will definitely reply to your questions on YouTube. All right. Thank you, everybody. It's the next day. I'm Marky Makeup, you're a cosmetic mechanic, and we're ready to demold. Remember, we used our A and our B, we mixed it all up, we poured it over the thing. You probably just watched that in this video, but here we go. Nothing to it but to do it. Some people, if you have a big mold or you have a big mess, some people may baby powder over this because there might be some oily residue, but we have a small mold, therefore a small mess, so we're just going to go to town. You will see our walls, our clay walls, stayed up very well. We had very minimal to no leakage, basically. You may see, let's tilt this, you may see a little escape here. Not a big deal. You can cut it off with a knife or just peel it away with your hands. And here it is. You will see an extremely subtle edge from where it's flat. Focus, camera. From where it's textured to focus to where it's flat. So here's the flatness. There's the edge of your prosthetic. See the shine to the knot? So that will be the difference in where you put your latex. So you'll want your latex to taper thinly out to the edge of where our sculpture was. And that'll help you give a paper thin, you know, barely there feathered edge, and that's what you want. And you can see the shine is showing us where the prosthetic would end. Then we just pull this clay out. This is the hardest part. If you have a huge mold, this can be very hard, but we have a small mold, so this will be easy. Most of these pieces will come out by themselves. If you use a water clay and you leave it overnight, the water clay will dry and harden and usually pop right out in crusty clumps. This one here is a very, very soft, very, very inexpensive clay. that kind of takes some skill. A lot of people were like, oh, nothing to it, but I don't know, the cheaper the material, the more advanced skill you have to have there. And here it is. I like it. We just give this a little wash. Some folks will, if you have a huge mold, once upon a time we would take the molds to a car wash and we would power wash the giant molds out. I don't know if people still do that. Probably not. That was the cheapest way to do it. But there you have it. You do see a slight difference in the 2 pores of silicone. So let's take a look at this. So there's a little bit slower setup time. This is a little bit faster. The density might be slightly different. So it's a little softer here, collects a little more detail, and will be easier to pull the dried latex out when it's a little softer. Here, it's a little firmer, and that helps back up the mold. So instead of doing a silicone skin and then a stone jacket, we, in my estimation, did a thinner, softer coat, if you will, a thinner, softer batch that set up a little slower, and then I backed it with a little bit firmer, kicked silicone. So there you have it. It's a little silicone sandwich that all set up perfectly fine. You see there's no, it doesn't separate or anything weird, but you do see just a little difference, just a little bit difference of that harder silicone is here, where the softer silicone spread out. This being the peak, the highest point of our mold. So there you have it. Now we're gonna wash this out real good, clean it off, make sure it's nice, and then you can mix alcohol and baby powder and make a slurry. Brush that on, let the alcohol evaporate, and what's left behind is you'll have a nice thin baby powder layer if you want. Not mandatory with silicone, because nothing sticks to silicone, but silicone, generally speaking. Or you can just put latex right into this. So I'm going to give this a little wash, a gentle little wash, get rid of that residual clay, and in goes the silicone, the latex. I'll paint it on layer by layer, let it sit in the wonderful San Fernando Valley sun here in the valley, and we will have a pulled prosthetic. Alrighty, thank you guys. I'm Marky Makeup, your cosmetic mechanic. This has been a Wasteland Wednesday on a Thursday. Like, comment, subscribe, share, tell a friend, and I hope you are all good. Happy creating. Yeah.